Hey guys, for today's video we are going to be doing a first impressions and tutorial of the Colourpop It's My Pleasure palette. I've honestly been super excited about this palette ever since I saw promo images of it because it is a purple palette, and if you know me really well, I am a huge sucker for purple eyeshadows, so I was super excited that Colourpop released a purple eyeshadow palette. So before we jump any further into the video, I also want to say that I am going to include some timestamps in the description box down below for you, and that will be for the tutorial portion as well as these swatches. However, if you are like me and you like to hear more about the packaging and the palette itself, then stay tuned on watching. So here is the It's My Pleasure palette by Colourpop. This palette retails for $12 on Colourpop's website, and it contains 9 eyeshadows. So going over the packaging, this palette is plastic, which is really nice and it's very sturdy because of it. And it says It's My Pleasure in this really cool foiled kind of text to it, which is really cute. So here is the back of the palette, and as you can see there are eyeshadow names on here. A small critique is that they're kind of hard to read because of the foil text and that the text is kind of small. And on here it says It's My Pleasure Pressed Powder Palette. So once we open up the palette, as you can see there is a really nice mirror in here. It is the size of the palette and it is also really clear at that. And then here are the 9 shades in the palette. In the shade there are 3 matte shades, 5 shimmer shades, and then 1 shade that is matte but it has like flecks of sparkle in it. One thing I want to mention is this palette would be perfect for travel. It has a really nice clasp to it, so you don't have to worry about it opening up in your bag. With all of that said, if you would like to see how I did this look as well as swatches, then stay tuned on watching. So first things first is we are going to go in with my Too Faced Shadow Insurance, which is my absolute favorite eyeshadow primer. My voice is so cracky, oh my gosh. With this, I'm just putting a light layer all over my eye, up to my brow bone, in this inner little tear duct area, and then underneath the eye. The It's My Pleasure palette does not have a skin tone colored eyeshadow for me, so I'm just going to take a light dusting of one I have in another palette and then lightly set my eyeshadow primer. And I'm just doing a really light layer too, just enough to set it. I'm not doing anything with any pigmentation. For this step you could also use a translucent setting powder. That works just as well. I don't know why, but I just sat down to film and then my voice started cracking like I'm going through puberty. Like, I mean, it's just so weird how that works because before it wasn't doing it, and then all of a sudden right as I sit down it's like, haha, your voice is gonna sound really weird on camera. So the first shade that I am going to go into is Kitten Fish, which is this really pretty lilac-y kind of matte shade, and I am going to go in with a Sigma E35. And then with Kitten Fish I am going to apply it into my crease and buff it upwards. This is going to be our transitional shade for the look. I am also going to take a little bit of Kitten Fish and round out my outer V, since we are going to do a rounded type of eye look. In the comments somebody's probably going to get mad at me for touching the mirror, but your girl has really small hands and can barely hold the palette. So I'm actually going to go into Pretty Cruel now, and I'm believing that this is a matte shade with some flecks of shimmer in it. So when I apply it with my E35, that all of the shimmer is going to go away. I just want to mention, I have just put my brush into the shadow. I haven't used it yet. And you can see I already have all of this kind of fallout around the pan. And then with Pretty Cruel, I'm just going to lightly apply it into my crease and then into my outer V. I'm just doing a light little circular motion to blend it out as well. So after I applied and blended out Pretty Cruel, I was right. A lot of the shimmer just kind of went everywhere. So I have like shimmer up in like underneath my brow bone over here. I have some settling in my crease, and I have like some flecks on my lid over in here. It just is a really inconsistent shimmer too. It looks a little weird honestly for how inconsistent it is. And personally, I'm just not the biggest fan of this eyeshadow formula. I would rather this shade be 100% matte instead of including all of these little specks of glitter. I just find it kind of weird, and it looks really weird when it's blended out. So the next shade that we are going to go into is Sleeper, and I am going to go in with a Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush. I want to mention also, this is another shade that's really powdery. I barely touched my brush in there and I had a lot of fallout, so I just want to warn you. And then with Sleeper, I'm just going to apply it into my crease to add a little bit more pink into the look. I also want to mention that I'm having problems blending out Pretty Cruel into Kitten Fish. I thought when we added fanfiction that maybe it would blend everything really well together, but unfortunately I still have a really harsh line. You can kind of see it. It's like right over in here. It's pretty harsh. And then you can also kind of see it like right over in here on the top. And I'm having a hard time kind of getting rid of that line. I keep on adding Kitten Fish over it or fanfiction, and it's still pretty prominent. It's not like a horrible blend, but it's not where I would want my eyeshadow to be blended, so I just wanted to point it out to you. So I'm just going to show you what I mean. I have a little bit of fanfiction right here on a Luxie 229 blending brush, and I'm just going to go right over that edge, just to try to get rid of it. You can still kind of see it right in here. It's pretty prominent. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more Pretty Cruel just to add a little bit more depth again. And as you can see, I still have that really harsh line over in here. It's still not wanting to budge. So the next shade that I am going to go into is Sleeper with a Luxie 231 small tapered blending brush. And then with Sleeper, I'm going to add it into my crease for more definition. And I'm not really going to blend it upwards too far either. I really want to focus this one into the crease in the outer V. And once you have Sleeper applied, I am going to go in with a little bit of Fanfiction on that Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush and really try to blend out this harsh line that we got. I want to mention I am having problems blending out Sleeper. As you can see, I have this really kind of harsh line right in here. You can see it more prominent on my other eye. It's like right over in this area. It's a really like chunky line. I'm having a hard time getting rid of it. So what I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to take a little bit of Sleeper on this Morphe M507 brush. And what I'm going to do is really kind of fluff it where that harsh line is to see if I can kind of blend it out. And then I am going to go back in with Fanfiction on that Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush and go right over the top of that shade. See if I can kind of blend out the edge. You can kind of see it's like a really like chunky line. It's not horrible, but it's still there, so I just want to mention it to you guys. As always off camera, I am going to cut my crease using my Tarte Shape Tape Concealer in the shade Fair. This is by far the best concealer that I have ever tried to do a cut crease with. I highly recommend it. And I'm going to go in with a BH Cosmetics flat shader brush. So once the concealer is dry, now I am going to go into Chiclet with a Morphe M421 brush. And then with Chiclet, I'm just going to apply it where this kind of concealer line is, this really harsh line. I'm only going to go in as far as my eye color right here. I don't want to go any farther because I want to add more colors. I wasn't feeling that Morphe M421 brush, it just wasn't applying the shadow right. So now I'm going to go with my Sigma E55. Which is a really nice dense packing brush. I'm going to apply this again to where that concealer line is. With a dampened BH Cosmetics brush, I am now going to go into Bare Minimum. And then with Bare Minimum, I'm going to apply it to the center of the lid, right when I look straight where my eye color is. I only want Bare Minimum where when I look forward, that where my eye color is. So I'm going to take that Morphe M507 brush with a little bit of Sleeper and I'm going to kind of buff the edges of these shimmers that we have down, as well as the cut crease line. I think this look doesn't really need a cut crease just because the shimmers are so deep as well as what we had in the crease. So I'm just going to kind of get rid of it, just so we get a better blend and kind of have everything tie in a little bit better. So the next shade that I am going to go into is Do or Dough with a BH Cosmetics flat shader brush. And this shade I am going to apply into the inner third of my eye. I also want to mention my brush is dampened. I really actually enjoy this shade. I think it's really cool. It has like a baby blue iridescent sparkle to it. It's super pretty and very unique. Kind of reminds me of Sugar Pills Lumi when you put it over other eyeshadows. I think it's just a really cool touch to this one. Again, using that same brush, I just cleaned it off with my color switch. I am going to go into Earthshine. So I'm going to take this Earthshine shade and put it right in the center of my lid. I'm going right over Bare Minimum. I honestly just find that Bare Minimum was a really lackluster shade for us. Just did not really fit the look that well. I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. I honestly find it so funny that I put Earthshine on top of Bare Minimum and then I got Do or Dough. Like legit, I don't think I see much of a difference between the two. Other than the center kind of Earthshine on top of Bare Minimum gave me a little bit more blue shimmer than what Do or Dough had. But other than that, I really don't see much of a difference. So here is where I'm at right now with the look, and then off camera I'm just going to apply the rest of my face. So here is where I'm at right now with the look, and then I'm just going to take whatever is left on my Luxie 231 and go along the lower lash line. I'm not adding any additional product, I just want like a little touch of pink. And then for my inner corner highlight, I'm going to go in with my Ofra Cosmetics Pillow Talk highlighter. And then with a dampened Luxie 217 pencil brush, I'm just going to apply this into my inner corner and then underneath my tear duct area. And if you're wondering if I had an inner corner highlight on before I just applied it, I did actually. I am filming my Morphe Fluidity foundation and concealer review at the same time as this one. So I just wanted a little bit of something in the inner corner when I was applying my foundation. It looked really weird if I didn't, so I did. But otherwise it's the exact same thing. I actually really love this highlighter, especially in the inner corner. I think it just has the most beautiful pop, and it's like really metallic as well. So here is the finished look using the Colourpop It's My Pleasure palette. I honestly had a lot of fun playing with this palette. I haven't really experienced too many palettes from Colourpop. This one is my 4th pressed eyeshadow palette from them, And definitely this look kind of took a turn. I was expecting it to look a lot different. However, I think it really did turn out in the end. And I'm going to keep it real, I am a huge sucker for purple eyeshadow, let alone burgundy and flecks of baby blue sparkle. Like, all of that is like totally up my alley. It is by far some of my absolute favorite things to use. So that is probably another reason why I really enjoyed playing with this palette. And then as for my final review, I want to give you guys some pros and cons about this palette, as well as do some swatches. So the first pro about this palette to me is definitely the packaging. I actually really enjoy how it is in a plastic container. Not to mention it does clasp up really good too, so you don't have to worry about this one opening up in your bag. And as you can see, it really clamps down pretty good. Another thing I really like about the packaging of this one too is the huge ass mirror in here. Like, the mirror in here is really big. It's a really nice mirror actually. I was actually really impressed with it when I first opened it. I was like, dang, that's a really good mirror. This mirror would be perfect for on the go. You don't have to worry about like really squinting in it too, because it's actually pretty good sized in my opinion. You know, it's pretty much the same size as the palette itself, which is really nice. Another pro to me about this palette is definitely the color story. I absolutely love how this one is very purple based, as well as has like those burgundy pops as well. I think it's just a really cool color story, and if you are like me and you're a huge sucker of purple eyeshadow, you will really love the colors in here. Another pro to me are some of the metallics in this palette. I think they're really cool, especially Do or Do, Earthshine, and Mr. Sandman. I'll show you guys with the swatches later on, but I think these ones just are really unique and they have a lot of depth to them. They're definitely worth buying the palette for, in my opinion. The last pro that I have about this palette is definitely the price point. I think $12 for full retail is a very fair price for it. Since you are getting 9 eyeshadows as well as hard packaging, you are getting plastic packaging at that, and you're not getting cardboard like standard palettes are, and you are also getting a really nice sized mirror. Not to mention Colourpop has a lot of sales, so chances are you'll be able to get this one like 20-25% off here soon. So as far as cons, my first con is definitely the formula of some of the eyeshadows. I'm really not the biggest fan of this Pretty Cruel shade right here. I really do not like those shimmer infused mattes. I find them really weird, and I find that the shimmer just looks really out of place, and it just kind of flakes kind of in random spots, and it's just really not cute. And I also did not like the Sleeper shade. I found that this one was really hard to blend out. I also want to mention that I did have a couple problems with Bare Minimum right here and Chiclet. Applying them was quite a challenge. I definitely needed a brush like an E55 from Sigma, and you also have to apply them wet, otherwise you lose a lot of that shimmer quality of the shadow. Another con that is definitely a personal preference type of thing is that I feel like this palette is really missing some key shades in here. I feel like it really is lacking a matte, rich, royal purple shade, especially something like a Poison Plum from Sugar Pill or something along those lines. It would go really well with this Chiclet shade right here. And I also feel like this palette is really missing a really nice inner corner highlight shade. This Earthshine shade looks like it would be a really good kind of inner corner highlight. However, this shade is definitely a topper shade, and it does not look really right in the inner corner, at least in my opinion. I feel like a really nice kind of like metallic, sparkly, pinkish kind of purple shimmer shade would have really paired well with this. So the last con that I have is something that I found a little strange, and that is when I did Earthshine on top of Bare Minimum, that I got pretty much the identical color to Do or Do right here. And since Earthshine is more of a lid topper in my opinion, I just found that really strange that when I put a lid topper on top of another like deeper shimmer shade, that I got something that was already in this palette, especially since there are only 9 shades in here. So in my opinion, I wish that this palette had a little bit more color variation, especially since one of these shades is more of a lid topper. I feel like that lid topper should be able to go on other shades in this palette and make more unique shades out of it. So when it comes down to it, would I recommend the Colourpop It's My Pleasure palette? And personally for me, it's not like my favorite palette that I've ever tried from Colourpop, and it's not the worst palette that I've ever tried. It's just like an okay palette to me. I feel like some of the shades just require a lot of extra work, and they require a lot of different techniques to get them to work how I would want them to. Especially some of the shimmer shades, you have to use certain brushes to be able to get them to look really metallic. I definitely feel like $12 is really a good price point for this palette, and I would definitely recommend it alone for some of the really unique shades in here. But, you know, another thing I do want to mention is you may have to take a little bit extra time blending things out, or you may have to use different brushes to apply things just to get things where you would want them to be. I truly would recommend this palette alone for Kittenfish, Do or Do, Earthshine, Mr. Sandman, and Fanfiction. I don't have a lot of these shades in other palettes in my collection, and I feel like they're really unique as well. And then as for swatches, I'm going to insert them right here for you. Kittenfish, Do or Do, Pretty Cruel, Bare Minimum, Earthshine, Chiclet, Mr. Sandman, Fanfiction, and then Sleeper. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this look, as well as let me know what your thoughts are on this palette. I would love to hear what you guys think as well. As always, I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down below, and if you would like to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram account is @lethal_kitten. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and until next time, bye!